Welcome to the Lethal Dispatch. Join Lethal Ted and Lethal Eddie to discuss all things tabletop role-playing. Featuring me, Torin Grimblade, your invincible, powerful, lethal but somehow modest spokesman for lethal fantasy games. Please hit the like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Join us on Instagram, Facebook, X, and Discord. Do it now, or I will destroy you. What? Oops. Could you pretty please just subscribe? Hey Eddie, I told you I could do it nicely. I am a born diplomat. These mortals love me. Anyway, let's get started. Take it away, guys.
Yeah, we want to make it available to everyone. We're actually looking for and getting someone to do a Roll20 adaptation as well. So we're working on that so that we will have both of those, which are sort of the big two, I think, right now of gamers to bring that in. One of the things I want to ask you about as well is, we talk about the turns, but one of the things we've been battling is all the math. I mean, is that something you've seen that is sort of an issue? Someone rolls a dice and then they got to add, subtract, and add and subtract.
It's doing a lot of math. It bogs the game down. It does make it to where, especially when you have players that aren't really, and I don't want to use the term math minded, but they don't want to do a lot of accounting. It's not really like mathematics. It's more like accounting. And they're just like, man, I just want to just tell me what dice to roll and whether I hit or not. Just tell me what, because it's hard for them to learn. Especially new players, new people that haven't been playing games as long as I have or you guys have or anything else. They do get kind of bogged down in all that, and they're like, I don't understand what all these numbers mean, and what's all these plus this and minus that, and how is that
Plus the multiplier that I got, and then the thing that I had over there.
Oh no, I gave that to.
Plus, I sang the song, which gave me a damage buff. Yep, and then that gives me a grand total of 172.
172. Whoa, that's so much.
No, Adam, that's not right.
No. And that's why we've really worked to eliminate that, because our system is you roll the dice and they tell the tale.
Nice.
And all the modifiers are done before you get to the table. So all you have is you roll your dice. And again, people wonder how we did that. And then when they see it, they're like, wow.
Yeah.
Because all the turns or the chance to move, they go way faster. So as we cycle through in our unpredictable game, nothing takes as long as it does. And that's again, 45 years of watching this and listening is where we come up with all of this.
Let me ask you a question, if I may.
Absolutely.
Is it possible, and not that I wouldn't want to play your system or anything like that, but if I had a favorite system, is it possible to take your combat system from your game and drop it into a different system or a different campaign? Or is it possible, or is it so what's the word I'm looking for here? Intrinsically, I'm not saying that right. Tied to your system that you can't do that. I'm just
one of the things that, right before we come on, I was talking to a friend of mine who I think is a friend of yours as well, George Fields.
Yes.
And he was talking to me about Hackmaster.
Yes.
And he mentioned how hard would it be to convert to Hackmaster.
Right.
And I told him it probably wouldn't take you 3 minutes, because all of our statistics are the same.
Right.
All of our ideas for bonuses and subtractions are the same.
Right.
We just have a way to convert them. And in fact, in our books, we've converted like what does a +5 sword look like in our system? What does a +4 sword look like in our system?
Right.
So frankly, our system is very easy to adapt to any game. I think players of 5e, Pathfinder, Hackmaster, almost any D20 system is going to find it very easy to use whatever part of our game. And we've written into our rules saying, take what you want, don't take what you don't want, and play the game that it works for you.
Oh, sure. Sure.
I mean, we use a lot of real-time timing on things so that there aren't these artificial segment things. But we also have rules that allow people to use game time if they want to use it in game time.
Okay.
So I honestly am 100% confident you could part any part of our game into pretty much any system. I think it would probably need to be a D20 system, but other than that, I don't think that it would be difficult at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And of
that's
course,
really cool.
that includes the opposed rolling system, to be able to,
Right. That's part of how we've eliminated math is our system is opposed. So you defend
Okay.
and you attack.
Right.
So sometimes it's easier to hit because they didn't defend so well. And
Right.
sometimes it's harder because they defended really well.
Sure. Yeah.
And we've accounted also for shields, for different types of armor, and we do all of that with no static modifiers. It's all based on dice.
Okay. Wow, that's really interesting. I'm really looking forward to trying this out. I mean, not just because I'm involved in doing artwork. I mean, I genuinely, want to play. I want to check it out and see how it works. And, so, I think I've been asked before in podcasts and things like that, do I ever get to play the games that I actually work for, that I get to do artwork for? And there are times I get to, but a lot of times I do not. I can honestly say there's so many games out there I've done work on in the last 24 years that I don't ever get a chance to touch them, especially collectible card games because they're so involved.
Oh, yeah.
So usually I don't get a chance to play those or try them out or anything. But when it comes to role-playing games or things like that, most of them I've never gotten to play. I've just had to do art for them, and then that's it, with a few exceptions. So
George is our next victim. We're going to be talking to him
right,
next
right.
week, and hopefully we can get you and him on maybe one of the online Foundry games.
Sure.
And you are one of those 4 or 5 people in the world that have the rules, and that's because
Right.
you're going to be looking at it to fill it in with art for us.
Right, right.
So you'll get a chance to see it. I know you haven't had an opportunity to do that yet, and it's about 600 pages is the book
Yeah.
that you have. So
Right.
it is,
Yeah.
it is a sizable tome,
Yes.
so to
It
speak.
is. Yes, it is.
With that, we probably should talk about what you did for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I remember when we first talked, first you sent me a rough sketch,
Yes.
and then you changed it a
Yeah.
little bit. Do you remember why you did that and what you
Yeah.
thought?
Usually when I start working on a project, especially like a wraparound cover like we're doing, composition is key. And where logo and text placement will define for me a lot of what I have to work around compositionally to make it all work. And remember, no matter how good your game is, the cover art, this has been said a billion times over the years, that covers sell books. Okay? If you
That's why
don't
we
have a
came
good
to
cover,
you.
yeah, if you don't have a good cover, nobody will even pick up your book, whether it's a novel or a game or whatever else, and look at it if the art doesn't bring them in. Remember the days of albums and album cover art and how important that was to picking up. There are so many albums that I picked up as a kid because of the artwork, and then I fell in love with the music. Like Meatloaf with Rich Corbin artwork on the cover, and Nazareth, Hair of the Dog. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. But those, I didn't know who those bands were. I didn't know their music. I was just hoping it'd be good rock and roll, and turned out it was. But, my point being that the cover has to sell the game before the game sells itself, or the book, because it takes time to read the contents. But the cover, you can look at it instantly and know whether you like it or not, or if it looks interesting enough to even want to peel that cover open and start reading it. And so when I approached this game, I remember you and I had talked about, well, what kind of concept are you wanting? What kind of concept is the main focus of your game. And I remember you saying combat. This is a lethal combat game. It is, I want an image that evokes the idea of combat happening and the deadly realism of it. So I would like to see maybe a group of player type characters that are fighting a group of monsters. They could be orcs, ogres, what, it doesn't really matter, goblins or whatever, as long as there looks like there's some carnage and a little bit of blood without being graphic about it, and things like that with it. And so I immediately, the wheels start turning in my head. That's been my gift since I was a kid, is when somebody gives me an idea or I have my own idea, I usually get a pretty clear instant image in my head, like somebody took a photograph and there it is, and then I start working on getting my reference materials together and working from my photo files that I have for like characters, people, stuff like that, or just all those things that I got to do as an artist to put together the image that's in my head, if you will, and then start working on it, start sketching it. But your question being, why did I change a few of the figures and elements, is once I drew it out and kind of thought, okay, this is somewhat what I like, you'll find as an artist, and I'm sure musicians and actors and everyone else works this way, that you start running into things where you're like, you know what, this isn't bad, but I'm now, okay, let me give you an example because it might illustrate my point a little better. So the main warrior that and you can see this in your guys' camera, you can see that he's holding his sword and he's doing this kind of number to the orcs. Well, originally I had a guy standing there with a sword like this.
Right, that's what I was talking about.
Right, and so the reason I changed that is as I was painting it and getting all the elements and starting to get to, I was like, wait a minute here. That sword is starting to, it's starting to blend in with the E and the T and the H in the word lethal, in the logo. And I felt like it was starting to work against the logo. And it was behind the logo, of course, because that has to be in the front. And I felt like the angle of it and the positioning of the figure and everything was fighting the logo for attention. And so it was one of those things that just throughout, as I developed and started painting it, I was like, okay, I think I want to make a change with this guy and bring the sword out of the logo. And so I just, came to the realization, okay, well, what other thing could I have him do with that sword if he's not holding it upward? And that was to turn it towards. And I thought, well, if he's holding it towards, I could always do this kind of a thing. And then I'll tell you what it hit me. The old Bruce Lee movie where he does a pose and then he stops and he goes, and then goes back to it just came to me and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to do this. Because since I've got these orcs rushing up and there's orcs rushing from the back, he's going, all right, guys, come on. We'll take you.
And it's perfect.
I just changed it. I thought, nope, I like this better. Even the orc on the back, I had it one way and I didn't. When I got to actually painting it, I got frustrated with it. And I said, the armor he's in, the pose he's in, I don't know, it's just not working for me. So I changed it. And there wasn't really a whole lot of like structured thought behind it. Sometimes I just look at something and I start working with it and I'm like, that's just not working for me. I'm just going to change that. So I just, made those few changes, sent it back to you. And, you guys were like, yep, that looks great. Okay. Because it was still 90% there. It was still 90% exactly what the original sketch was. But I did decide to make those few changes just because visually I felt that the impact worked better. And even the axe that the dwarf is wielding, I changed it because if you look at it, you can see that the angle of the first warrior's hand and the angle of the axe blade, it almost looks like a piece of puzzle that could be stuck together. And if you look at the way that I've got the elf archer over in the other background, the way her pulling arm is setting against the small of his back, and then where his belt buckle accessories and stuff are and stuff, you can see that the whole angular nature of the arms and figures of those three characters, they look like pieces to a puzzle. It looks like you could take those three characters and shove them together and they would make one figure, like keys or pieces to something like that. So I just decided to make those changes on the fly, and I felt that they just worked better. And then of course with the the logo and the text where it fits and stuff, it all fits into place right with those orc faces. And I have a real knack for that. I have a knack for design as well as actual art. They are two different things, design and art, but I think I handle both equally well. And that's just
And I actually noticed that you have those orcs coming right up behind that elf in the background, and she's like completely oblivious to them.
yes.
And I thought that was kind of cool and adds to the lethality of,
Yes.
the combat,
Right. Because, if when you start looking at an image like that, you can tell that, man, they might be in some serious trouble, even if they think that they're doing pretty well,
Mhm.
And
For
we
sure.
obviously can't see how many they've already went through coming up that hill, that rock formation or whatever, which was for me just a clever way to get the characters on the cover. I mean, it's not. Well, I mean, you can look at the background and see all the mountains and things that are in there. So obviously they're in a mountainous, hilly, valley rich area. So it made sense for all that. But it also was a key element in me building up that triangular image to. It also directs your eye between the dwarf, the elf, and the male figure in the middle. It makes a triangular form that also mimics the angle of the word lethal. If you look at that, that's intentional too. It makes a pyramid shape, which makes your eye go up from the bottom through the characters and into the logo, which is a visual, it's like your rule of thirds and your golden ratio and all that kind of stuff. And
We didn't think of any of that. All we did is said, "Wow, that is awesome," and we sort of stopped
right,
there. I mean, I will tell you that at we're going to be at Genghis Khan here in the next few days, and we
fantastic.
have a 8x10 backdrop that is the cover.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and the beauty of it is, I also have a stand-up banner that's 3 feet wide that we can
Yes,
put down a tile. And the beauty of the guy beckoning people forward is he is the center of that 3 foot wide
yes,
banner, and he's
yes.
beckoning them, come over here and talk to us about our game. So it turned out even perfect in that way.
Yeah, and see now that wasn't really I guess you could call that a happy accident because I intended for that to reel you into the cover. But yeah, I mean as signage, if you will, that also works perfectly because it does. It makes you, hey, come over here and check this game out. So
Exactly.
Right. And
I'm glad that worked out that way,
when I saw it and I was designing the banner, I was like, you know what? I'm like, that's perfect. He's asking people to come over and talk to us.
Right, right.
So it worked out great. So
I
yeah,
take great pride when things like that happen. I look at that as that was just meant to be then. That was the right choice of the right characters and poses and that kind of stuff for that when that happens. You can't always plan for those kind of things, even when you try. Sometimes that just doesn't happen. So,
You're also doing our game master guide,
yes.
and I know we've talked at least about that, maybe even our monster manual.
Yeah.
And so you're planning that out now. Can
Right.
you do you think you can tell us your thoughts on what we can expect for that? Is that
Yeah.
and I guess just to interrupt a little bit, when I gave
Sure.
you the original thing, I didn't dictate a lot to you. You're the artist. I just said
Right.
make it awesome. And that's
Yeah.
sort of where
Yeah.
we're at.
No, you guys have given me a lot of creative freedom with this, which isn't something I always get. I mean, it varies not only from company to company, but project to project. I mean, some companies, even when you're dealing with the same art director, will give you a lot of direction on one thing and then leave it open on the next because they don't know where to go with it, or they're like, "Do you have any ideas on this?" I mean, it's just one of those things. It's never It's except in the case of Wizards of the Coast. Those guys, if they could reach through a portal and guide your hand to actually paint and draw, they would.
Why does that
They
not
would.
surprise me?
Yes, they are very, very, and that's not to put them down. It's just a description of how they do things. I always try to be very careful about the way I speak about things because I don't want to try to put anybody down. And I have prints and playmats and everything ready to go of this cover for GaryCon because I'm going to be at GaryCon in 4 weeks in
nice.
Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
Perfect.
So I will have I'll be ready to to sell all the various even T-shirts. I even have T-shirts with it printed that I've ordered already.
Awesome.
So
That's
so
great.
that a lot of people will be seeing this artwork at GaryCon as well, and they'll
Very
be asking me about it. So I will definitely make sure to tell them. And if you guys, if you don't mind, if you could send me a physical copy of it, even like the print version that you have now, even if it's not the finalized copy, just so I could show people, because that will help advertise for you guys, so that people will
sure.
at least go on your website and check it out and stuff until they can actually see you in person and get to play it, or on the online games that you guys are talking about doing. So
Absolutely. Well, I'll get you a copy sent out.
okay. So anyway, for the cover of the Game Master's Guide, um, what we're looking at doing is a group of adventurers that you're seeing from the back as they are looking forward at a very evil looking castle or a big fortress in the distance with mountains on the sides and stuff. And that way too, since it'll be a wraparound cover as well, I can have that mountain range, much like I did on the player's book. I can also have that be a wraparound portion, with maybe even some monsters flying around the evil castle or the fortress, if you will. And maybe some monsters off in the distance, like coming forward to the group in the far distance. But that's the concept that I'm kind of working with right now.
And we love that.
exciting to
That sounds just amazing because that's the dungeon master, or the dungeon, as we call it, dungeon magistrate's guide. And
Right,
so
right.
we're, it's the adventure, the traps, the poisons, the all the stuff
Yes,
that'll be in there, the critical hit charts, all of those things will be
right.
in that
And those things would
book.
all fall within a nice evil fortress, wouldn't they? So
Oh, for sure.
That's exactly
yeah.
right.
So that's
All the
that's the
goodies.
concept I'm working with, and that's I'm putting together my reference material and working on some sketches and stuff now to get that concept underway, so that so that we can kind of get started on that, when you guys are ready for that and whatever, and get that going.
Yeah, well, we're pretty much ready now. That book is about 90% complete, so we'll be going to layout on that one too. So
Okay.
Pretty soon.
we need to obviously move forward on that. So you and I
Right.
will touch base on that soon.
Okay.
For sure.
Sure.
And then there's obviously the monster book, and we've talked the
Right.
least about that. But do you have any thoughts on where you might think we want to go with that?
Well, it'd be kind of nice to have, I think, a scene where we have maybe, and because I haven't had the chance to read your game all the way through yet or anything, maybe like a big dragon or something, and a few other of his minions around him coming towards the viewer, like they're coming at you because you're the player, you're the character in this, and
Exactly.
have that wrap around to the back cover with some of the other minions and the surrounding environment that they are in, is just where my headspace is with it right in the moment. Now that's subject to change, and we can discuss that further and stuff. But that's just a quick idea out of the gate, just since we're talking about it.
It sounds ominous, and I'll tell you right now,
Yes,
our dragons are going to be a little more lethal than some of the dragons in other games, and
good, good.
that's the plan. Our plan is not to have dragons be easy to deal with.
Right, right. And they shouldn't be. I mean, they should be incredibly difficult. So
Right, the alpha predator of the
yeah,
entire game system.
exactly.
Maybe
So I'm really
we
looking
should
forward to
even
doing that
have a
one
little
too.
bit of influence in the background from our what we're working on creatively for our version of the world that we're going to have, that we'll release at some point. We're not ready to release that name or
Right.
anything yet, but
Right, we have a setting that we're already pretty deep into, but we're
Okay.
going to release the game before we release the setting. And
Sure.
we have very specific lore and things for dragons that we've already developed, but that's
Nice.
still
Nice.
under wraps right now because
Sure.
there's really only two people that know that.
mhm.
Right.
But they're not going to be easy to deal with, nor are they going to be very numerous. They're going to be a well, kind of like smog or something, where this is
Right. More
you
of a
know,
rarity.
yeah,
Mhm.
but incredibly powerful.
Right. Right.
So.
Cool. I like it.
Great.
So we sure appreciate your time, Brent. And
Oh,
it's
you're
been an
very
honor to
welcome.
speak to you, and it's been an honor you doing the work for us. And look forward
Thank
to
you.
seeing the Game Magistrate's Guide, and then moving on to the Monster Book and getting this game out there to the people. And we'll get a book sent out to you so you can have that at GaryCon.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you guys for having me on this. It's been fun. I enjoy doing these, and I'm hoping that the utmost success for you guys with this too. I mean, I'm excited to play it myself when I see you, and moving forward, I think it's great.
We sure appreciate it.
Yeah, we very much
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Lethal Fantasy cover artist Brent Chumley will be at Farmageddon 12 in Farmer City, Illinois, May 2nd to the 4th, and will be offering his amazing art, including the Lethal Fantasy cover art, available on t-shirts, prints, and more. He will have a copy of the beta print of the Lethal Fantasy Player's Guide on hand. Stop by, grab some great art, and check out the Lethal Fantasy book. Thank you for joining us for the Lethal Dispatch. We value your feedback and comments. Please like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss updates on the Lethal Fantasy tabletop role-playing game. Join us on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok. Join our Discord channel to chat directly with Lethal Ted and Lethal Eddie and find out what comes next. Lethal Fantasy, the evolution of the tabletop experience.